Good day to everyone. It's a blessing to see you again. It has been a while, but we thank God for the opportunity again to meet. In these sections, we will study and expand more about the nutrition that we learned in the topic of basics of nutrition previously. But before I do that, I want to pray to God that He will guide us in this study. Come with me to pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us the opportunity of life. And as we study this topic, help us to see more your gospel in it, that your Holy Spirit may open our minds to see it. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Before I go into the topic, for those that do not know me and my family, they have been the first time see them, this is my family. My name is Kilman. My queen's name is Carla. My firstborn is Kevin. My girl is Kayla. And Katniel, the small boy. In case you don't have my contact information, in the Philippines, this is my contact information. I have been doing preventive medicine and natural remedies, work as an evangelist with PAFCO evangelism training. I've been working with PAMAS also, Philippine Adventist Medical Aviation Service. We have been in the Philippines for 6 years and residing right now for 3 years in Palawan Island. And you can contact me in my email, as you can see on the screen, or our telephone numbers in the Philippines, Smart or Globe. You are welcome to find me on the Facebook, it's the same, my name. Just make sure you choose the account that has my picture. My old account that was locked, I couldn't open it again, doesn't have my picture, so make sure you choose the right one. There should be 2 accounts there for mine, with my name, Kilman Bute. WhatsApp, you can also contact me through the WhatsApp if you are in another country, and we can help you with anything that you want. As long as I have time and life, strength, and I am not busy with my children, I will be glad to help you in guiding you through some assistance in eating, learning some tricks. I never claim that I know everything, but whatever I learn, whatever I know, I share with people. Now you may remember from the topic that we shared in Basics of Nutrition that we have what we call the 2 sections of nutrients, macronutrients, which involves what? Carbohydrates, and I will go quickly because this is just a review, lipids or fats, and also the proteins. Beside that, we have what is called the micronutrients. The micronutrients are then the vitamins and the minerals. All of them is the group of nutrients that we eat in our food. And we know, as we talked about it before, we need plenty of vitamins and plenty of minerals, so our food is nutritious. Remember, nutrition is based or measured by the amount of vitamins and minerals our food has. If it is high in carbohydrates, if it's high in fats, if it's high in proteins, it's not nutritious. It's basically well considered junk food. It has to be very high in vitamins and minerals for us to be able to call it a nutritious food. One of the things that we are lacking more in our diet is micronutrients, which is the vitamins and the minerals. The macronutrients we have too much most of the time, so we have to be careful. As you remember, when we saw the Basics of Nutrition topic, we saw the Dr. Foreman's graphic where he explains what are the most nutritious food in our choices. And the 100% nutrition choice is the green raw leafy vegetables. And as you remember, we talked about it, the items on the graphic going to the right side, they are not the most nutritious things. And the one on the left side going up are the most nutritious things. So the point is, we have to learn how to eat those things that are more nutritious, but reality is that they are not the tastiest thing. So the key point for being a good cook is learning to prepare those nutritious food in a palatable way. So that's my goal today as we expand this nutrition topic too, as we can learn more about it. So let's review in picture, what are the carbohydrates? Examples of carbohydrates, as you can see in the screen, we have potatoes, we have cassava, we have bread, which is wheat, we have adlai, and the left corner, if you can see, and we have rice, commonly known in many places, especially in the Philippines, because Philippines is good in producing rice. That's what we call carbohydrates. Remember, eating a lot of cassava, a lot of potato, a lot of bread, and a lot of rice is not nutritious. We need energy, no question, but eating too much of that is not a good diet. It could become a junk food just eating too much of that, because there is not a good source of nutrients. Nutrients meaning nutritious food, meaning minerals and vitamins, because carbohydrates is a nutrient also. Examples of the second nutrient is lipids or fats. Then we have what? The avocados. We have the coconut, as you can see, shredded coconut there in the pictures. And then we have also cashew nuts. Other examples are peanuts, because peanuts are considered fatty. Even though peanuts are a bean, they are also considered fatty. So they are fat. The highest bean with fat. The avocado, of course, you know, is fatty. You can include there the almonds, the all the other nuts like walnuts, even the pili nut, well known in the Philippines too. All those are fat. Now, what will be the third group? The proteins. In the proteins, we have the sprouts of the beans, which you could make it with any beans basically, or most of the beans. Some few beans are not good germinating because of the commercial processing, but many of the beans you are able to germinate. In previous sections, I did a demonstration on how to do a better system of sprouting, where the sprouts actually will have a higher level of chlorophyll because they get a little greener and they actually grow a little faster. We did it with basically ground. I did a presentation already about that, and in this section I will be doing a next presentation on sprouts, which I will teach you how to do it with gravel. It's a simpler procedure and it's cleaner. You will be able to even use the whole plant with it. And I hope we can continue learning more and more every day as we develop more into learning how to do it properly. As you can see there, the beans basically are the main thing. I did not put any meat or any flesh into the picture because, you know, I don't recommend that diet. It's not good, but it's part of it. So what is an example of high vitamin and minerals food? In reality, the highest is vegetables and fruits. So the question that comes, because many people say, yes, doc, I eat vegetables, I eat rice. Oh, there is a problem. Rice is not a vegetable. Rice is a carbohydrate, as you saw in the demonstration as we were dividing the groups one with the other one. Rice is a carbohydrate. Oh, but what about potatoes? Same thing. Potato is actually a root crop, but it's in the group of carbohydrates. What about gabi root? Same thing. It's a root crop, but it's the highest carbohydrate in the area, so we consider it carbohydrates. You can talk about root crops like carrots. It's not a vegetable, it's a root crop. Yet, it is not as high in the heavy complex carbohydrate as potato. So it will not increase your sugar as potato will do. It's sweeter and it has carbohydrate, but it's simple sugars, simpler sugars. They are easier for digestion. The potato is a complex carbohydrate, it's heavier, and it will be harder for digestion. That's why it lasts longer when you eat those in terms of energy. Your body has to digest it a little more, with a little more strength. Therefore, we will not consider those as vegetables. They are carbohydrates. And at the same time, they are root crops, which is a very good thing to remember, because we will talk about the issue of combining one thing or with another one. As we know then, what's a vegetable, I will show you some pictures of it. And I have taken pictures of local things so you can see what we have available. I don't want to be very fancy showing you things that you will not be able to even get in this country or in the area where you are. So there are some things definitely will be harder to find in one place of the Philippines, one island, and another one, or even in some places where there's hardly any vegetable because people are not growing vegetables in the area. Mostly everything is imported, bring it from another island, from another place. We definitely know that. But if you go into God's plan, you know that God wants us to grow our own food, and hopefully one day we can do that with our families in a way that we don't have to depend mostly on market but our own production. So let's see some examples of vegetables. Some examples of vegetables are for sure lettuce. Some people call this the Chinese cabbage, or the people may see the cabbage that normally people call repollo. We have tomatoes. There are other vegetables that are really good. For example, the celery. We have also the broccoli. We have the sitaw, or the green string beans. We have also the peppers, the sweet peppers, of course, not endorsing the use of any cayenne or hot pepper as spices that are irritant. But sweet peppers for sure, especially when they are colorful, more flavonoids. And then we have the cauliflower. Oh, very tasty, very nice. We have eggplants. Those are all vegetables. And then we have other examples like upo. We have pepino. We have saluyo. And then we have also alugbati. All those are vegetables, no question about it. So what will be the content of vitamins and minerals of these? Is very high, especially raw green leafy vegetables, as I showed the last pictures of the saluyo and the alugbate. Those are the highest in nutrition. Remember, all the other vegetables, their nutrition, upo, pepino, is lower than 50%. We have to remember that saluyo, alugbate is higher. Now let's give some examples of fruits, right? Examples of fruit, we have the mango, as we have here in the Philippines, very many varieties of it. We also have the cashew fruit. Now if you see on the picture, there's a cashew fruit with the cashew nut. Cashew nut, of course, being very famous in the Palawan area. The sad thing about it is, and I can tell you because I've been in Palawan for 3 years, is that normally people will treasure the cashew nut. They will take the cashew nut and throw the fruit on the ground. And my children and I enjoy going and picking the fruit that everybody does not want. They don't want it. Then we make it into dishes in our home where we can use it for eating ourselves. You can use the cashew fruit raw or cooked. So I'll give you examples of what we do at home. For example, if my children and I go into a tree and we get the cashew fruit, sometimes we give the seeds to the people. We just ask them, can we have the fruit? Because we treasure the fruit, not the nut. I mean, the nut is good, but it's more valuable for me, the fruit, than the nut itself, because we don't need so much of the nut. We need more of the fruit, which is opposite of what we normally think. Oh, you need a lot of the tasty thing. No, that's not what we need. We can have it, we can enjoy it, but we don't need so much. We actually need 1/6 of the plate in fats, remember, as we talked previously about it. Our allowance of fat is 1/6 of the plate, should not be more than that. So the idea is what we need more, very big portion of our plate in our eating is the fruit, in the case of the fruit meal, and in the case of the vegetables, the vegetable meal, we need a lot of the vegetable. So that's why I want to also clarify what's a fruit, what's a vegetable, what's a root crop, what's a carbohydrate, so we can have ideas in what we are talking about in terms of the diet that we need to have. So the cashew fruit, we cut it, we of course wash it, make sure there's no worms, there's no openings and so on. We cut it in half or fourth and make sure there's no tracks of worms in it and make sure that the fruit is intact. Once we see that and we check it and wash it and all that, then we chop it in pieces, cut it with a very good knife because there's a lot of fiber in it. And we collect even the juice that is coming as we cut it because it's rich in many vitamins and minerals. So we eat it in different ways. For example, the way that I learned to eat it in my country, in Panama, is we just use salt, asin. We just put chopped cashew fruit, asin, salt, and we just eat it that way. That's how I learned to do it in my country. My father, of course, used to make even sweet cashew fruit, cut it in pieces, put it with sugar, and then cook it and make it kind of a marmalade or something like that. You can do something like that similar when using ripe bananas, and you don't have to use sugar. Especially in my case, I don't use sugar in my home, but I use ripe banana. So let me give you another example of a dish which I normally recommend with the cashew fruit. Another one is using cashew fruit and ripe bananas, chop it in pieces, maybe half and a half. If you use half of the cashew fruit, you use half of the content in ripe bananas, especially saba, because those are the ones that can be cooked and they are not puckery. Then you cook it with a little bit of water, cover of course, until the water goes down. You can cook it until then, or you can cook it a little more than that, being careful that you stir it with a stainless steel or sandok that is from bamboo or something like that, kind of a wood that doesn't give any smell. And then you stir it until the banana and the cashew fruit are becoming kind of brownish. Do not let it burn, because any food that is burned is carcinogenic, causes cancer in our bodies. Anything that is food, when it's burned, will cause cancer. So for that you have to study what I recommended before, end products of glycation. All right, once it's there, then you can serve it, either hot or just wait until cool down. And that's the basic. You can add some things to it and you can expand it if you want. Example, you can put raisins. You can put carob if you have carob available in your area. You can even add shredded coconut into it, or other nuts or other dressings. If you wait until it cools down, it actually makes it a little hard, so you can actually cut it in pieces and make it like pudding or something. And you can spread on it maybe some other raw fruit dressing or raw fruit smoothie with even nuts if you want. Those are all recipes that you can use with the cashew fruit. Let me give you another one, 1/3 recipe, basic recipe of the cashew fruit. The cashew fruit, when you cut it, you can put it to cook with water, but instead of making it sweet, you can make it savory. How? You get turmeric, not too much because it will be bitter. You can use powder. You can use also the root. You may grate it and put it in the combination. Not too much, remember, maybe half a teaspoon. You can test it in your home, how much you like it with it or how much you prefer not to put too much. But you can put salt in it or even garlic and some others, and it will be a savory dish that you can enjoy at home. As you can see in the screen, of course, we have other examples of fruits like banana, and we also have papayas, and we also have duhat. Very significant. What is it that we have to eat a lot? We have to eat a lot of fruits, and we have to eat a lot of vegetables. God's recommendation for us is eat plenty of fruit, eat plenty of vegetables. He never said eat plenty of fat, or plenty of protein, or plenty of carbohydrate. As a matter of fact, God tells us that we may eat a little more carbohydrates if we are having a heavy physical work. That means we are including here basically the farmers, people that do heavy work. Those are minimal today because our world has shifted from a very active population to a very sedentary lifestyle population. So there are very minimum amount of people that actually should be eating so many carbohydrates. But for sure, if you are one of them, use the carbohydrates that you need. You may have to balance what you really need in terms of carbohydrates and how much you do not need. The simplest way to determine that is this. If you see that you're losing weight, because you are not eating enough of the energy that you need for the day. It means you may have shifted too much in eating fruits and vegetables to the point that your weight is going down because your amount of carbohydrate is not enough. Maybe fats also, or proteins, but protein has not much to do with your weight because proteins are not stored in your body. Remember that. Proteins are not stored. Reason why is you have to be very careful with osteoporosis and kidney damage. Too much protein will cause these problems. But if you talk about weight, you have to consider the amount of carbohydrates that you are eating and the fats that you are eating, or lipids. Then, as we consider also that God says that we should not eat so much carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, that the most nutritious things in the world are vegetables and fruit. The next aspect that we have to see is that God tells us also that we should not combine fruits and vegetables in the same meal. Now, many of us may not know this, but God is very clear in this aspect. So I'll show you some of the references where we see that God tells us and guide us in the way we should combine our food. For example, in the book Counsels on Diets and Food, page 112.3 says, "It is not well to eat fruit and vegetable at the same meal," clearly. And it says, "If the digestion is feeble, the use of both will often cause distress and inability to put forth mental effort." So your thinking will be damaged, will be diminished. It is better to have the fruit at one meal and the vegetables at another. So we clearly see that God's recommendation for us is that we should have a vegetable meal and a fruit meal. Oh, so does it mean that I can eat only lettuce or I can eat only papayas? Okay, I will explain that a little better so you can have a better understanding. But remember, the words that God uses here is fruits and vegetables. Reason why I started also clarifying what's a carbohydrate, what is a lipid or fat, and what is a fruit and what is a vegetables. Because once we know that, then we have to clarify which ones we can combine with the fruits and which one we can combine with the vegetables. So let's see another reference and then we will continue. The next paragraph in the same page, 112, but paragraph 6 says, "Fruit and vegetables taken at one meal produce acidity of the stomach. Then impurity of the blood results, and the mind is not clear because the digestion is imperfect." So we know that the combination with fruits and vegetables causes problems in our body. Now, one thing that I forgot to tell you in the previous reference is that it says there, if the digestion is feeble. We are using the word if, meaning there is a reason why also here people have problem with combining fruits and vegetables. If the person has digestion problems, now the question that comes is, do I really have digestion problems? In my experience and knowledge, what I have been studying and what I see in people's experience, I can tell you I don't believe that there are many people that can say I don't have digestive issues. Most people in the world today have one kind or problem of digestive issues. So therefore, my conclusion is, in my experience, most people should heed, most people should listen and follow God's recommendation in regards to not combining fruits and vegetables at the same meal. Of course, there are some questions regarding that. Many people say, well, Doc, what is a vegetable? What is a fruit? We will talk more about that also, but we will try to stick with what we know and what is clear. Those doubting things or different things, we will consider that God will help us to clarify that later. The next section says, "And to eat the best homemade bread, both Graham and white, with dried or green fruits, and let that be the only course for one meal, then let the next meal be of nicely prepared vegetables." Now, as you can see here, the reference is giving us one example of a combination. It's talking about bread combined with green fruits. Now, green fruits, remember that God says that we should never eat them raw. Green fruits should not be eaten raw, should be cooked. So if you have lanca that is green, you have papaya that is green, you have mango that is green, or you have guayaba that is green, you should cook it before you eat it. You should never eat it raw. Therefore, we have to be careful. When it says here with green fruits, that green fruit was previously cooked. But the combination that I want to emphasize in this reference is that it says there bread and fruit. So the point is, it is okay to combine bread with fruits. See that? Okay, now we go then into the next question. Which are the items that can be combined with vegetables or with fruits? So if I am going to eat a vegetable meal, what can I combine with the vegetables and what can I combine with the fruits? So let's talk about that. Let's start with the vegetable meal breakfast. All right. Now, talking about the vegetable meal, let's see what we can combine. Vegetables like broccoli, we can combine them with what? With carbohydrates. What kind of carbohydrates? For example, rice, oats, corn, wheat, gabi root, ubi, cassava, sorghum. All of those are good combination of carbohydrates for the meal. Now, those are options. I didn't say you have to use all of them. Those are options. Just opening our minds to see what we can combine our meals. We are still under vegetable meal. Let's say my breakfast today is going to be vegetables or lunch, whatever. What can I use? Lipids or fats. What kind of lipids or fats can I combine with the vegetables? Avocado, cashew nuts, almonds, peanuts, coconuts. Now remember that peanuts is a bean, but it's a very high in fat bean. So now what else can we combine? We can combine proteins with the vegetables? Yes. What about beans? Some nuts, some of the nuts that are heavier for proteins, they are also protein content. So yes, we can combine that with the vegetable meal. What about sprouts? For sure, we can combine also sprouts. So the idea now that we conclude is this. Let's give an example, just an idea so we can make it a little more clearer. We can have carbohydrates, we can have proteins, and we can have fats with our vegetables. Remember, the more vegetables you eat, the more nutrients will be, the heavier the nutrition of the meal, but you can combine them. So let's choose an example of a meal, vegetable meal, and we'll call it vegetable meal 1. So we can see. Vegetable meal 1 could be this example. Today we eat for breakfast, let's say in my case, I want to eat breakfast with a big plate of a salad with saluyo, alokbate, carrots, chopped carrots, and some onions, and roasted, shredded coconut. Now you may remember we did one of the cooking demos one day where we did the shredded coconut roasted. What you do, just regular, in any place in the Philippines, you know you have the kutkuran, and you open the coconut, the niyog, and you shred it, you make it, fine, and then you put it in a clean, dry pot, stainless steel preferable, and you can use a stainless steel spoon or bamboo spoon, something that will not make the metal for being damaged when you're doing the roasting of the coconut. And you keep the fire, make sure it will not burn the coconut, you stir it, no water, just dry, until the coconut is well roasted, brown, but not burned. Remember, everything burned in the food is carcinogenic and products of glycation. And this coconut roasted, you can place it on that salad to give flavor to your alokbate and your saluyo. In the case of options, just give another option. You can have, instead of coconut, or if you want controlling the amount, you can have another dressing of avocado, dry basil leaf, and salt. That's another example. Or could be just a combination of 2 fats there. roasted coconut, as long as it's not too much, 1/6 of the plate in fat, avocado and coconut together, 1/6 of the plate. Then you can have a side dish of oats that are boiled and double boiling with garlic and salt. Example, using the same ingredients, you can use it with onions and salt if you want. But you can have oats that you can have soaked in water, make a mixture of it with the onions, chopped onions or powder, onion powder, with salt, and put it in double boiling and make it kind of a pudding or soft bread kind of. If you want to cook your oats that way, which is the best way to cook because it's cooked in a low heat, more time, 45 minutes is the best. So the oats is really well cooked. The 5 minutes oats instant microwave is not recommended. Why? Because the oats remain raw. It's not well cooked enough that the carbohydrate is well digestible in our system. Then those undigestible carbohydrates will be making some white lacunes in the brain, which will increase the risk of Alzheimer's. The grains have to be well cooked. All the grains, rice, oats, you name it, even the other examples we put there, sorghum, all of them. There are many grains and all of them. Of course, they're not all available in the Philippines, but the ones that you normally know, like corn, rice, oats, or are more common in the Philippines, you must cook them really well. Then the next option will be the red mungo beans. Example of red mungo beans could be with, because this is a salad, could be that you cook them with upo. So make it bigger, the pot, the body, and also your vegetable intake is bigger. Let's say that you put a lot of upo into this red mungo beans, a pot, and you make it. So once you serve yourself some of it, it is actually including more vegetables in the meal. So as long as your meal for the morning, let's say breakfast, contains a big amount of that salad, small amount of the dressing, let's say of the avocado, make sure that the fat is not too much, and the carbohydrates also small amount, maybe 1 cup, I don't know what is the intake of a person, different from another one. We can never judge somebody else's need. We have to learn our own, how much I need. Even if a person has a problem with the thyroid, if they eat too much carbohydrates and they have a hypothyroidism, they will be storing more of that carbohydrate into fat because they tend to store things more. Then they will increase their weight and it will not be helpful. Therefore, in the time when the person is having problems, they should measure also their intake. So everybody has to judge how much you need for the day. And if you see, as I told you, basic principle, if you see that your weight is increasing, you are eating probably too much carbohydrates, too much energy, then it's going to be stored as fat and make bill. Then that means you are not, you are eating too much of the carbohydrates. If you see that your belly is getting bigger than your waist, you can measure it yourself if you want. Waist-hip ratio. If you measure the hip and you measure the waist, and the hip is the abdomen area is going to be bigger than your hip area, then you know that you are eating too much of the carbohydrates or fats too. And you have to decrease the amount of them. If you see that you're actually losing weight, that means that maybe you're not eating enough of the carbohydrates. You're maybe getting a lot of nutrients, a lot of vitamins and minerals, eating a lot of vegetables and fruit, which is good, no problem. But if you start losing weight, you know that you are eating too little of the carbohydrates or fats too. So make it a balance for you to know how much to eat. So let's give a picture now of an example. Let's say this. This is an example of what will be probably in part of one meal. This is other items, but it's an example. Let's say that you make a salad, big amount for your eating of nutrients, vitamins and minerals, eating a lot of pepino with carrots and onions, a little salt, maybe a dressing with cashew nut that is there placed in the picture. The dressing could be oregano leaves, could be onions also, and salt or calamansi. You blend it together, make it nice, and you pour that on top of that salad, and then you have maybe some cassava, camote en cajoy, well cooked also, until all the part inside is, the white is not seen anymore. If you still see the white inside of the cassava, it's a little toxic for our body. So you make sure you cook that cassava really well, that it will not be toxic for you. The best way to cook the cassava is time. It takes time to cook it. If you keep it in low heat, but more time, the cassava will be well cooked. So don't try to rush the cassava into 20 minutes cooking and think that it will be healthy for you. It will not. Even if you cook it in high heat, it will be hard to cook the cassava. So it's better to think of preparing things ahead of time, even from one day to the other one. And even if you want to cook it from today for tomorrow and dehydrate it, once the cassava is well cooked, you drain the water so there's no more water, and then leave it for a little while until the cassava is well dehydrated, even with the cover out, so the evaporation is better. The cassava will stay well without the risk of spoiling, even until the next day. If you see the picture there, there's another combination there of steamed vegetables. I think I made some alokbate there with some other vegetables there, and then I put some coconut on top, shredded coconut on it. That's another option. You can have some steamed vegetables or cooked vegetables, and depending on what you want to combine, what you have available. There are other examples of vegetable meals. You can have calabaza, eggplant. You can have different. But the idea is, the principle is, the basic thing is, the more vegetables you eat in the meal, the more nutrition you have in the meal. You can have them raw, you can have them cooked, you can have carbohydrates with them, you can have fats with it, you can have protein, especially if you have beans or something like that. Could be red mungos, could be black mungos, could be black beans or other beans. Now let's talk about the fruit meal. What can we combine with the fruit meal? The fruit meal could be combined with carbohydrates. Examples, we said them already, we told you already. Carbohydrate could be rice, oats, corn, wheat, gabi root, etc. What about lipids or fats? The same thing. We can combine avocados, cashew nuts, almonds, peanuts, etc. Coconut. Those are the fats. What about proteins? Yes, we can combine even beans. We can have some nuts and whatever. Or we can combine it with sprouts. Yes, some people are reluctant, we will say, doubt that sprout could be combined with fruits also. If you doubt that, don't use it. If you prefer not to, don't use it. Just use the sprouts with the vegetable meal. So let's have an example of this. Let's say we have a fruit salad today of papaya. Whoa, very delicious. Mangoes. Whoa, you chop that, few mangoes and few papayas, or plenty of them depending if it's a big family. And then you have maybe some boiled corn with, let's say, thyme leaves or dill leaves and salt, example. And then you have cashew nuts dressing, which could be cashew nut with mango blended. And you pour that on top of that papaya salad or even on your corn. And you may have black beans with puson and saging. Why with puson and saging? Because that may give a little more body to the cooking of the beans, yet it can be combined with fruits or with vegetables. Puson and saging is a flour. Or if you prefer not to have puson and saging, and you prefer to give body to something else that is not harmful in combining with fruit or vegetable, that could be a root crop. For example, carrots. Carrot is a root crop. It's a carbohydrate of a simpler sugars in the, or carbohydrates in it. It's not as heavy as potato, and it could be combined with fruits or with vegetables. Options, ideas, and what we could combine in a way that we are not going away from the principles and our food is nutritious. So what will make the fruit meal the most nutritious? When you have plenty of fruit. The more fruits you eat in that meal, the better it is. The more mango, the more papaya you eat in that salad, the more nutrients you will have, the more vitamins and minerals you will have. And then the amount of corn, the amount of beans, the amount of cashew nut that you use is lower, is less. Especially the fats, the cashew nut, because it will be a dressing to give flavor to the other things. So it's not that bad. So as we see another picture of it, let me give you some examples. Like one day I prepare pineapple cooked with bananas, and at the end I put coconut, shredded coconut, just at the end, so it's not so cooked, the coconut. And then we have a combination right there. It's pineapple and bananas, and coconut, shredded coconut. And then we combine it with cassava and pineapple. Just chop raw pineapples instead of all cooked, because remember the previous one was cooked pineapple with bananas. But you have also raw pineapples. We have cooked cassava, and then we had red beans with carrots and onions and salt, which is basically able to be combined with the fruits, because it's onions and then the carrots are root crops, basically bulbs. So an example of a fruit meal like that will be a big amount of pineapples raw with a portion of cooked pineapples with banana and coconut, the cassava, the beans, and the carrots as part of the meal. The more fruits you eat for that meal, the healthier will be. So concluding this point, as we study also in Basis of Nutrition topic, from a diet of mostly raw cooked vegetables and fruit to a all cooked diet that we have today, that people hardly eat anything cooked, or that is hardly vegetables and fruits. Mostly everything is carbohydrate, mostly everything is lipids or fats, and proteins, especially flesh. We know that we have switched from a very healthy diet to a horrible diet that tastes very good, no question about it, because there's a lot of food enhancers in this kind of diet that drifts our mind from the proper diet. So the key point for us is to learn to eat God's food, good food, tasty or palatable. So as I tell my daughter always, only when you can cook, prepare God's food palatable, you can say that you're a cook. So let's all learn how to be a cook, preparing God's food palatable, that we can encourage others to enjoy it too. God bless you.
He's Coming Broadcasting Network.